This PSA was brought to you by the Peter G Show.
You may have second thoughts after the show.
Don't drink the Foster. We're really talented. We should get Oscars.
Just pick out a car, for Christ's sake.
No, hi, my name is Peter.
Yeah, I want.
Here's good.
Yeah.
Madam Perry.
I need to get back in the genie bottle.
Louis from Pennsylvania, you're on. He likes it. It's showtime.
Peter G Show, Peter G Show, divorced dad, single dad, divorced dad, single dad, Peter G Show.
This PSA was brought to you by the Peter. Just kidding. Holy moly, Butterfingers right off the bat. But hell, it's Wednesday, and that means it's showtime. I need people. How the hell is everybody? Just when you think you got it down. April already. Welcome to April 2024. Time is flying, people. Enjoy it while you can. Life is short. We got a great show tonight. We do. Interesting show tonight. Right here, tonight, on this show, Captain Jim Goodrich. He's got a book, brand new book, one of the first of a series of books coming out. And he's going to tell you all about it, live to tell about it. 3 decades smuggling contraband across international borders. And it's an interesting book on top of it. He's quite a, he's got a background from childhood all the way through senior adulthood. And he's going to be on this show to tell you all about it. And he's going to be on in a couple of minutes. So you might want to hurry up and go to the bathroom, get your glass of wine, beer, whatever you want to do. Sit back and relax because this is interesting. I'm hard to keep the attention when I read books, but this one kept me going. And unfortunately, he leaves you on a cliffhanger. But that's because it's a series of books. But we're going to be talking to him in just a couple of minutes. Also, I want you to mark this for next week. As always, put this on your calendar, all right? Because I have talked about the Lahaina fires in the past. Well, I'm back at it again. Why? I'll tell you why. Because next Wednesday, April 10th, right here on this show, author Stephanie Perusi is going to be on this show. Burn Back Better. Lahaina fires. A perfect storm or a perfect crime. They didn't waste any time getting into this book because there's something going on over there. I truly believe it. And she wrote to tell about it. And she's going to be on this show Wednesday, April 10th, next week, to talk about this book. And she spends a lot of time over there, and she's got a lot of insight. And you're not going to want to miss this because something don't smell right over there. That was a tragic thing amongst the many in this country, in this world. But she's going to come and talk about it. That's April 10th, right here. Burn Back Better, the Lahaina fires. You're not going to want to miss that as well. And lastly, as always, I love the people that watch this show. I truly do. I thank you for doing it. Please, please, please subscribe, follow all these different platforms. I need your help. These guys are making it very difficult for me to be seen on their platform. Why? Because I talk about things that they question, that they don't want to be out. But still, subscribe, follow. I'm on many different other platforms, your Facebooks, your LinkedIn's, all that kind of stuff, and BitChutes, Rumbles, X. I don't know. You know where it's easy. Google Peter G Show. You can find it. But please, support. I need your help. Peter G wants you. All right. Also, for those of you who are busy, I know it takes a lot of time to watch this show. You got to really want to watch it. I want to watch it. For those of you on the go, Google Peter G Show podcast, put an earbud in your ear. You can listen to the show on the audio podcast. We're on 26 different platforms. When you're at work, while you're driving the car, Lord knows commuting is a pain in the neck and it takes a lot of time. do something good, learn something, put an earbud in your ear and follow and listen to the Peter G Show via audio podcast. It's the next best thing to being here. Promise. And that's where that's at. But again, all roads lead to one. Speaking of all roads leading to one, and coming up in just a few minutes, I'm going to be bringing Jim on. But first, we want to hear from our good friends over at Clean Star Products with their money-saving fuel additive DX1 driver. And I'll be back in a minute.
Hello, I'm Tyrone Thompson of CleanStarProducts.com. This is DX1 Driver in the news, and here's what our friends have to say.
So I'm here to recap on the DX1 I've used. I put it in the oil and I put it in the gas. While I'm using it just for about 3 tanks. Cleaned everything out. I got every ounce of power back in my truck.
When Jared's truck was new, it had a lot of power. Then over time, it began to slow down. He got it all back with our DX1 driver program.
Something you got to see for yourself. It's a great product. It's affordable. And it blows all the other additives and esters out of the water.
DX1 driver is the finest oil in the world from a California environmental company. It goes into the fuel system and the oil. It's the only green grade product qualified for the carbon credits program, giving you better fuel mileage, lower emissions, and increased horsepower. So join the fuel savings revolution today. Go to CleanStarProducts.com/shop.
That's right, folks. Clean Star Products. And all I can tell you is personal experience. They have a product that actually works. I use it. It does do something. It's not some snake oil. In fact, if you have questions, go to www.cleanstarproducts.com. There's a phone number there. You can call Ty Thompson directly. He wants to talk to you, answer any questions you may have. I'm telling you, he's got something that actually works. And should you decide after talking to him that you want to order this product, mention the Peter G Show. Very important. And you will get 5 bottles for the price of 4. That's right. You heard it here first, folks. Mention the Peter G Show, and he will get you 5 bottles for the price of 4. Just for checking it out on this show. Again, they know what I do, and they still sponsor me, so God bless them. So it's all good. But take care of your engine, and your engine will take care of you. It's just like take care of your body, the same thing. Also passes California emissions. If it'll do all that, it will pass anything. So he's got all the answers. Go get you some. I'm telling you, it works. All right, take a sip. Salute. Woo! Smooth. All right, as promised, waiting in the wings, I've got the man himself, and I got a lot of questions, but I'm telling you, I don't think I've done a show quite like this. It's more of an adventure story, but true story. So, and I'm going to tell you why I'm doing it, or he's going to answer me a couple of questions. But anyway, either way, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, from parts unknown. Actually, I'll let him tell you. But either way, my new friend of the show, author of his first of a series of books, Crossing Borders, right here, ladies and gentlemen. Captain Jim Goodrich, how are you?
Doing well, and hi everybody. Welcome to the show. This is I'm not sure Peter is aware of this, but I'm losing my talk show virginity tonight.
Well, if it'll help you at all, I'm not saying I'm a talk show whore or nothing like that, but you're not the first.
That's good, but it's comfortable. It feels good, and yeah, it's and as you had said before, it's a story that needs to be told. So I'm here to answer any questions you have.
And that you're going to, but I'm telling you, within the next couple of minutes, you're going to forget all about what's going on. Don't worry about my 3 or 3 million. They're all close friends. So it's all good. My Butterfingers, we started the show tonight, and it was like, whoopsie, every once in a while, law of averages, a couple of little flubs, but hell, I'm a professional. I'll rise above it. Anyway, so why don't we do this real quick before I get started? Why don't you take a second and give everybody a brief synopsis of who you are and why you are, got to this point, and your book real quick, and then I'll start with the questions. But just give everybody a quick, 1 minute roundabout kind of verbal thing.
Sure. Well, the reason I wrote the book is because it's a story that needed to be told. You just can't do these things, and as it turned out, I ended up through young life experiences becoming uniquely qualified to be able to do this. And then as you get caught up in things and the adrenaline rush, I perpetuated it. And I ended up getting caught, but and I paid my dues and stuff, but that doesn't discount the adventure part of the story, and decades of the cast of characters are just unbelievable. I don't think I could ever write fiction. The reality of my life has been just amazing as it is. So I'm just telling it like it is. I'm not adding anything, and I'm not taking much out, except I did change names to protect the guilty.
All right. Gotcha. Well, again, because I read your book, and I didn't know what I was getting into, quite frankly. I mean, I didn't really have I had an idea, but I didn't have an idea. And by the way, we're already getting let's say, hey, Pensacola loves you. Maybe they love you, because I don't know if they love me or not. But somebody loves somebody. I appreciate it.
If it was Fort Lauderdale, I'd have to say it was probably me.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe you never know. It's still early in the night.
That's
Right.
book 6.
So I checked. I started with the book, and you started. We're going to start really quick. I mean, there's a lot to go through, so we're going to have to blow through it, kind of quickly, because of the fact that there's so much, information that you put in. Very detailed book, but yet it kept me glued to. It wasn't boring, and that was something within itself, because I have a hard time keeping my attention to certain books. But I read your book from first page to last page. It took me a while, but I did it, and because I wanted to. So let's check out. You started out as a young child in Hollywood because you grew up in Southern California, correct?
Correct. That's right.
Yeah. So I mean, I got a couple of pictures, but I mean, you got into show business as a child.
Well, my family, I grew up in a family of ballroom dancers, of all things. My uncle, who was 4 years older than I ended up being the California Starball champion. So it was a generational thing. And then one day I got a call from him, and he said, "Hey, there's a tryout for Alvin and the Chipmunks." And I said, "Okay, I mean, what?" I thought that was a cartoon. He goes, "No, they're doing a benefit show to local hospitals in the LA County area, and just go try out for it." So I did. And there were, I think, 200 plus kids that tried out for it. And I ended up getting the part of Alvin, not because of my astute ability to act or dance, but because of my size. Alvin was the smallest one. Theodore and Simon were the tall ones, So
Gotcha.
Anyway, and that started a career. The producer of the show ended up sending me to an agent and a drama coach. And then it just started snowballing. I would go and try out for parts, mostly got rejected. That's the nature of the business. Yeah. And then I snag a part here and a part there, and ended up getting a part in a Disney movie called A Tiger Walks, and some commercials. The one that I starred in was a Bell Brand potato chip commercial, and I was the only one in it. It was great. It was a 30-second commercial. So yeah, that, and then I was in a lot of stage plays up until my late teens. And right out of high school, I was doing a lot of stage plays, and that's where the craft really started. I started getting good at it. Yeah, started mastering it.
Let's look at here's one of your promo headshots and all that. I mean that you had. That is totally the look. I mean, right there, that, as a child actor, I mean, that was pretty much, strapping young lad right there, Jim.
Yeah. When I had hair.
Yeah. Well, we're all trying to hold on.
Shave it.
We're all trying to hold on. It's good. But the thing was, that's shit, that's stardom right there. Hollywood at its best. But yes, you were. So you were in Disney's. There's another one, A Tiger Walk. That was the movie. And what year was that?
64. 1964. I was 13 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, there you go. And I read you met Walt Disney?
I did. It was a fluke, and I actually ran into him twice. He was in his trench coat, even though it was like a summer day. But he always liked to wear this trench coat. It was his uniform practically. And he would just walk around and check things out and introduce people. And I had just been with a guy named Sabu. It was his last movie. He was famous for the Elephant Boy movie. And he was way back in the days when there were silent movies. But he took me under his wing, and one day we both ran into Walt, and Walt was amazing because he actually knew which movie I was working on, which, I mean, there's a lot going on out there. There's probably 6 different productions going on simultaneously. How could he keep up with something like that? But he did. And it was a peak experience. I'll never forget it. It's like etched in cerebral granite to this day, meeting him. And he actually bent down to be at the same level I was. So we would see eye to eye, and introduced himself and shook my hand. Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Wow. Well, that's what made Walt, I guess, I mean, he was definitely, one of the, that's what made him who he was and why he got what he got. I mean, that kind of a guy. Wow.
Yeah.
I just erased your buddy put a comment in, but I just because I'm getting spammed already. It's like, these people, and I just erased your buddy Jeff's comment by accident. Sorry, Jeff. I did the wrong one. I've never had to delete. Some of these people. Anyway, okay, but we'll just keep. I'm just because I'm trying to read some of the comments that are coming through while you're doing this. So you ended up doing that. But then you did get into your stage, a lot of stage performances and theater, I guess it was, right?
Yeah.
And you actually won an award for that too as a kid, right there.
That was for Anti-Mame in Long Beach Community Playhouse. And, Long Beach Community Playhouse spawned a lot of actors that went on to be pretty famous. And so it was quite an award, for me, for a little kid. I think I was, by the time I got around to that, I was 14, maybe 15, because it was an annual event. The movie, we shot it when I was 13, but it didn't come out until I was 14. And then that play was when I think it was 14 or 15. So,
wow. Like I said, you started out with that whole thing, but then you kind of shifted gears. I mean, when did you come out of doing the Hollywood stuff and then shifted into, you broke into sailing and things like that. I mean, with that community, surfing.
Okay. Surfing, of course, being in Southern California, I grew up in Long Beach. And so, it was the thing to do. That's what we all did. We built our own skateboards, started surfing in the 50s still. I'm 73 now. And what was interesting is that Long Beach had a program. They have a fund. It's called the Tideland Oil Fund. And it's money that is accrued from every barrel of oil that is pumped offshore. Every one of those barrels, a portion of it goes into a fund that can be used only for coastal development. And that's why Long Beach was able to outbid not only other communities, but other countries for the Queen Mary when it went up on the block. So that's how Long Beach got the Queen Mary. They had hundreds of millions of dollars to be able to play with. One of the things that they did in 1956 was they bought a fleet of sabots, which are little dinghies, Lido 14s. Sabots are 8 foot, Lido 14s are 14, Solings, and a smattering of larger boats. And they brought in world-class sailing coaches and said, hey, if you go to school in Long Beach, your parents pay taxes in Long Beach. Come on down. It's free. And I went down and I fell in love with sailing right off the bat and excelled at it. So that was the sailing connection. I mean, when everybody else was playing football and doing other sports, I was down at the marina sailing. I couldn't get enough of it. I mean, it was truly an addiction, and still is. I'm doing the Ensenada race in 2 weeks. The Newport Beach to Ensenada race. Yeah.
Still, how many years now? How many years have you been sailing?
Let's see. Well, I'm 73, so 68.
Wow, that's amazing. That's great. The thing is, so when you're hanging down the marina, I mean, I guess you just start meeting everybody, and that's how you ended up with
exactly
working.
Networking. If you have enthusiasm and no background in sailing at all, you'll be able to get on somebody's boat, and they'll teach you the ropes. And that's where that phrase came from. It's an old sailing term from, who knows, hundreds of years ago, learning the ropes. Yeah.
So in your book, you ended up getting with the captain of the Foil. That's let me see if I can pull up a picture real quick. That's this boat right here. How many feet is this sailing boat? What year was that sailboat?
Yeah, that's Kettenberg 38. It was launched in 1958. And interestingly enough, I sailed that boat from up until I was 22, 23 years old. And now we called him Uncle Bob. He wasn't my uncle, but he was a family friend. And he took me under his wing because he saw, hey, I know how to sail. We spoke the same language. And he was it was the first big boat, ocean racer, that I got on. And I went, whoa, this is what I want to do the rest of my life. Seriously. That feeling of being on the bow of the boat and coming down a swell and, surfing. Yeah, I still surf. I still love surfing. But, man, being at the helm and putting that tiller over and carving down a big wave, a big swell, there's nothing like it. So that boat, as it turns out, ended up being as you read, being the first boat that I brought my first load of marijuana up from Mexico in 1969, right out of high school. But there's a missing ingredient here. I had been smuggling from the time I was 9 until I was 18. My mother has a real affection for parrots. And of course, I do too, to this day. And she approached me and she said, because we used to go down to Mexico quite a bit, to get good deals on wrought iron, this and pottery and, the usual stuff, piñatas for birthdays. Anyway, she said, those poor birds down there, she said, what do you think if we just bring one home? And we did. And we had it in a brown paper bag with a couple of holes in the bag and put it under the seat. And that was the first time we did it, and got the bird back to really good health. And we started doing that infrequently, but every ostensibly it was for helping the bird and having a multiple stream of income, selling them to the local breeders. My mom ended up being sort of like the local cat lady of the neighborhood. She was the bird lady, and she had a hard time getting rid of the birds. There were times when we had a bunch of birds. They were all healthy. She brought them back to health. And I just fell in love with them too. I mean, they're a sailor's best friend, really. Really? Dogs, cats often have a tough time on a boat. Birds, it's like, wow, they're perfect for sailing. So I've sailed all over the planet. So up until I was 18, we were bringing birds back. So
wow.
I had the experience of being able to cross a border, and the experience of being an actor. I knew how not to flinch, because that's what they look for. They'll ask you a question out of the blue, and if you go, you can't do that. You can't flinch. You can't sweat. You gotta, you're not doing anything wrong. So you play that act, you walk through, right this way. Keep going.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So, okay, it all started with that. But so you got onto this guy's sailboat at the age of, what was your first race with him?
1961. Yeah. So I'd have been 10.
Wow. That's young.
Yeah.
That's young.
But I was already sailing and racing in smaller boats.
Right. I got you. But unbeknownst, I read the book, and people really should, it's an interesting book. I can't say it enough. But the thing that got me was you smuggled your first load of pot or marijuana unbeknownst to this captain of this boat.
Yeah.
Because of sustained some injuries in Mexico while you were over there. I mean, you didn't even know what you were going to be doing, and you just kind of did it, and that started the whole thing.
That started the whole thing. It was an interesting mixture of events whereby he injured himself, really, or he was injured. Let's call it a bar fight. But there was it was the first year that the Hells Angels came down and decided, hey, Cinco de Mayo, because that's when the Ensenada race used to take place. Doesn't anymore. It's the week or two before Cinco de Mayo, because it was like water and oil. It just didn't mix the two crowds. And, and sailors can be pretty tough too. So, I mean, it was better to just pull back and separate the two groups. But that year, 69, was a banner year down there, and there were a lot of problems that occurred, and he was the recipient of a big problem. He was in the hospital for months.
Wow.
So he needed somebody to take his boat back, and he trusted me, and so I hitchhiked down to Mexico. I got my diploma. Instead of going back to my seat, I just kept walking off stage out of the stadium, the high school I graduated from, went over to a friend's house. We'd had this all planned, and we hitchhiked down to Ensenada. And circumstances were that a good friend of ours, somebody that we actually helped put in business over the years, became a sailmaker. And everybody's related to everybody down there. And one of the folks got detained. I'll put it that way. Detained by fake federales, let's call it that, because they figured that he wasn't giving his share of the pie, and so he was holding back. And so they held him as hostage, and it was like it just all fit together. It was like shuffling a deck of cards, and this one went there, and boom. And the way it evolved was like I ended up being the sort of the golden boy. By if you can get this load back, we can get the boat back safely, and we can get this guy out of harm's way who was being detained. And I did, and it all worked.
I mean, because I'm going to ask you this, because when I started doing promos for this show, I got a little bit of feedback from some people, but somebody commented, why would you, because again, I know times were different back then. Pot was a big deal back then, but it's nothing like what's going on with the drugs nowadays, the fentanyls and and you got your cartels and, killings and all this kind of, you lived in a different era where it was just nobody got hurt, and really, and for the most part, I mean, you just did your thing, and it was more of a thrill, correct?
Yeah. It was almost never for the money. I mean, there's nothing like crossing a border with contraband that it heightens all the senses. It's just amazing. And I actually got addicted to that. And in getting all the ducks in a row and doing dry runs, and then that works, boom, and then on the day you do it.
Yeah, I don't know nowadays. I mean, I've done a lot of flying in my days of traveling and bands and this and that, and the last thing you wanted to do was get caught with something at an airport or anything like that because you're out of the country and you don't have any rights, basically. And that was my biggest fear is like, you leave everything behind should you be dabbling in anything. And that's just the way it was. Otherwise, risk, it's a scary feeling.
Well, I believe this may still be true, maybe not, because I've been out of it for quite some time. But if I was using racing yachts and they seem to have a don't touch, just let them go. It's a racing yacht. What would they be doing that?
Right.
They were all clean and everything ship-shape. The guys who were sitting around smoking doobies, playing guitar, and their boats unkept, they were the ones that got the attention.
Right. Whole different breed of people that you hung out with. Money, clean cut. Yeah.
Not long after this picture, maybe less than a year after the picture of the front of the book, I cut my hair because it was starting to attract attention in a way that wasn't healthy for me.
Right. You were a dude.
Yeah.
I again, back to this comment, because somebody said that in the comment, I guess, unknowingly, why would I want to have somebody like you who did what you did on my show and promote it? What would be your answer for that?
Well, first of all, I got caught and I did my time. So I paid my dues. And the big part of writing this book is to show how, because I didn't have to make anything up. I just told it exactly how it was and chronologically. And a big part of it is how you can get caught up. It's almost like being in the mafia, how you can get caught up and it's almost impossible to extricate yourself. And again, it was marijuana for the majority. Okay, then it graduated to hashish. And then when I ended up going full tilt, with cocaine, I got caught. And all that's wired up now. There's always ways to rationalize things. You read the accounts of the Iran-Contra folks, and they were, the government was legally bringing stuff in, and you go, oh my God, what? I'm just a little guy doing an independent thing here. And then you rationalize it saying, I don't have a problem with it, with the using it. I'm not, I'm the guy who wanted to get up and go surfing earlier. So I wasn't into all-nighters, and that sort of thing. I guess I don't have an addictive personality that way, except for healthy things, so.
It seemed to me, Mexico back then was a simpler time, a lot less complicated, and you could go to, it really looks like when you were down there, and you were down there a lot, you had a good time while you were there. The pressure was, it just a different way of life.
Exactly.
Wow. Oh, wow. Because again, at first glance, and I get, a lot of people are just headline readers. And when I come out and I say, 30 years of smuggling, contrabands, AKA drugs and whatever, some people just take it for the wrong way. And I think, again, the fact that it's a true account and you're telling the story in great detail, I got to say, not just, it's more about the whole lifestyle, more so. The actual smuggling part was, at least in this book, was, minute compared to all the details of, like, from the hotels to where you were, what you were doing, all that kind of stuff. It's kind of, again, it kept my interest. So that's, to me, everybody knows. I get distracted. Oh, squirrel. So it's it's just the way it is. But so a lot of back and forth. And this book covers, how many years do you think this book covers? The first one. How many books are you going to be doing to tell the story? Because it's not over.
Yeah, no, it's probably, I would say, from 2 years old, because you saw the picture of me and on a bureau down in Mexico, and that was a New Year's of 1953. So I was 2 years old.
So when you did the final, because at the end you did one load. You did a load of marijuana, pot, whatever, via airplane.
Yes.
What year did that end? Before that's the end of the book, basically for right now.
Yeah, 1971.
1971. So we're talking. That's more than a decade right there. Your childhood. That was just setting up everything to how you grew up and grew into the whole.
It was 2 years after. 2 years after I sailed a load back.
Okay.
And actually, I was a bit player in that. I was working at an airport, an airstrip, a dirt airstrip down in Mexico. But the way it evolved was I ended up being key on the subsequent one, and that starts book 2.
Gotcha. And how many books do you think it's going to take to tell Captain Jim's whole story?
6.
6.
Yeah.
Oh, you're going to be busy for a while.
Yeah. Well, I just got 12 chapters into the editor, and I'm fine tuning another 6 of those chapters, and then you pick the pictures that correspond with the time.
Right. And that'll be for book 2.
Yeah, that's book 2. Another thing I'd like to say is that, I made a lot of mistakes. In retrospect, I can look back and say, I went a little bit too far there, and then I got caught into it.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't completely solo. Everybody works for somebody to some degree, and my success at being able to do that. There were times later on, there were 7 of us boats that crossed the Atlantic to Europe. I was the only one who showed up. Yeah. So sometimes success, well, that's in book 4.
Oh,
yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Keep everybody hanging. Let's go again. I think it's going to be a great series for those who want to. But the thing is, you not only all these people that are in this book, not all these people, but your main characters or whoever that you change the names. Do you still know who's alive, who's around, who anything, or completely like out of your life decades ago, or moved on?
Well, as you know, there are some that are still in my life. The person who introduced you to me, he's still in my life.
Yeah, but he's not all there though.
Yeah, well, that's I always tell him he'll be all right after the operation.
Yeah, well, the light's on, but no, but I'm
in touch with many of them. Still as close or closer. The character Denito.
Yeah.
The book, yeah. Well, matter of fact, his son came up, and we all went skiing together.
Okay. Because let's face it. As we get older, people die, either don't take care of themselves, it's a lot of people go way before their time, or some people don't leave the business. They end up getting in way too deep. I've got a lot of friends, not a lot, but a good handful of friends I've lost to. They could not stop being bad, things like that. And I loved them as people. We had a lot of fun growing up as kids, but I couldn't be there, Yeah,
so, they succumbed to the temptation.
Yeah, and so I was just wondering as I finished. In fact, I was just thinking about that, late morning hours of last night or this morning. That I'm going to wonder, who out of this book, is still alive to tell about. Like, okay, even like Captain Bob or whatever is. He was probably a lot older than you back then, right?
Yeah, no, he's passed away. He's left. Yeah.
Yeah. But so he was the norm. He had nothing to do with this. He just owned a boat that you got on, and now you have that boat, don't you?
I do. I was able to reacquire it. Yeah.
How?
Well, when I got out of prison, one of the first things I did was got on the internet, and I said, I wonder whatever happened to Bob, Uncle Bob. And I got on the Kettenberg site, and I looked up foil, and it wasn't there. And I went, God. Oh, that's right. It was hull number 39. So I did a search with hull numbers in the Kettenberg 38, and boom, it popped up. They changed the name. It had been acquired by a gentleman named Peter English up in San Francisco, and he got the boat and modified it somewhat. Apparently there was a dismasting, and so instead of the beautiful Sitka spruce mast, which is beautiful, and that was the second one we had because we dismasted once in a race. He put an aluminum one in. Okay, so he modified the boat a little bit, and then I called him, and I said, I'd love to come up and crew for you. I said, I grew up on the boat. He said, I'd love you to do that too, except I sold it 2 weeks ago, but let me call the guy and see if he's interested in having you come up and sail with him. Well, I got a call from the guy a few minutes later, and he said, hey, can you fly up here and teach me how to sail my boat? And so that's started a relationship that's, 13 years ago, 14 years ago.
I mean, what's the life? Because, boats come and go. I mean, people smash them, they wreck them, they do, stupid stuff. They think they can do it. So the odds of that boat, was built in, you said 59. When was that boat built?
Launched in 58.
Okay. And now here we are, decades, 50 years later or more, and that boat's still around, and you were able to find it, and it wasn't just, broken in half somewhere or at the dump.
It's a miracle. The top side of the boat of that, you saw, you put the picture up there, it looks exactly the same. The bottom below the water line, the frames, which are like ribs, the frames of the boat were steam bent oak, and almost all of them had cracked and been sistered, which means you put another one next to it, a fresh one. Well, by the time I acquired the boat, almost all of them were cracked. And could you go out and sail it? Yes, but could you go out and sail it safely? No, you wouldn't want to get in any big seas. This boat is so beautiful, it deserved to be restored. So the last 2 summers, I have been replacing the old cracked ribs with Purple Heart laminate. This boat is going to look like showroom when we're done. Yeah.
Sounds like a hell of an investment.
Structurally, it's a massive job. Anyone who knows boats and is aware of what I'm doing with this thing, they scratch their head. They go, wow, you have taken on a huge, huge project. And I have, but I love the boat.
How many years the man who bought it and then asked you to help him learn how to sail it, how many years did he keep it before you got it? Why did
I think 13 or 14 years? Yeah. Make that 11 to 12. Yeah.
And did he use it, or did he buy it and it just started sitting around?
No, it's one of those boats. He wasn't an accomplished sailor when he got it, but I went up several times, and I was at the America's Cup race where they had the 72-foot catamarans up in San Francisco, and we were watching it from the water on that boat. The thing is that he got he has a kid now, and having a kid and a wife and a boat, the boat ended up, being the odd person out. And he knew that the best person to take this boat and bring it back up to its original glory was me.
Wow. So he sold it to you.
Yeah.
Amazing. Here, it looks like you have a fan. I think you have a fan here. Annie C. Hey there, Captain Jim. Good to see you. The show. Love seeing your book. Love seeing your book coming out. Your stories. After the first time we met, and you told me your story, you get this out. You did.
Wow. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah. So you got a fan club already.
I'm so used to protecting people by changing the names to protect the guilty, but I don't think Annie's guilty of anything except being a great person. So, but she, I don't think she'd mind me saying who she is. C stands for Carradine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've heard that name. No, you're old Jeffy
Yeah.
Manchester. All right, so you're all intermingled.
Yes.
All right, awesome.
I taught her and her son how to trike. I don't know if you know what a trike is. It's a 3-wheeled vehicle that you're, by going back and forth, okay, you fell forward. It's
non-motorized.
non-motorized. They have motorized ones as well, but think it's a great way to stay fit and really for the core. And it's one of the closest things to, well, it's one of the best things for staying in shape for skiing, which is what I do.
Gotcha. Oh yeah, that we're going to talk about that too. But because here you are, you're the surfer guy, and then you're the sailing guy, but yet you ended up picking up skiing at what age? I mean, you're still an avid skier right now.
Well, that same uncle that was the dancer, when he got to be 16 and could drive, I had skied before that. I would have been 12, but I had skied before that. I think I was maybe 8. And then I loved it. You know, it's immediately, I love it. What little kid doesn't like to slide down a snow-covered slope in an inner tube, in a trash bag, whatever, or on skis, and including this little kid. So when he got 16, we used to work off each other for our corresponding parents. He'd tell his mom, I need to use the car because, you know, Jim wants to go skiing. And I'd tell my parents, well, Bob doesn't want to drive up there alone, so I need to go skiing with him. You know, that kind of thing. We worked both ends from the middle. Yeah. One
of the beauties of California. You got the ocean, and then an hour or 2 hours you can be up in, you know, Big Bear, or, you know, if you want to do Mammoth, a little further, but all the above. It's doable. It's doable. And let me see what we got here. Here's a picture. Explain this picture.
Yeah. Well, that's I believe that was 1970. Could have been 71. But, you know, I got involved in racing. The caption I have that on in my Facebook page is, "This boy needs lessons." But it's, you know, back then the shape skis hadn't really been refined yet. They were just starting. Prior to that, when I started skiing on, were straight skis. They didn't have a curvature to them. Nowadays, it's so much easier for people to learn how to ski now with the equipment. The equipment has been a big plus for us.
And you still ski, and you're skiing right now.
I was skiing all today. Yeah, I instruct. I teach people how to ski. So
wow. So all this stuff is stuck with you. I mean, you haven't really changed much course, except just doing away with the smuggling end of it.
Well, it's called getting paid for having fun. And, you know, I've been teaching something. I was teaching young kids younger than me, how to sail when I was a preteen. Because I got to sail and get paid for it. So that was always the way to do it. And I've been competing for a long time. I mean, I've got I brought in a lot of first, second, and third places in a lot of races over my career. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, you know, it's pretty much this book tells that story for setting you up for, I mean, who you were as a child and how you became, you know, and got shaped up and you know, into the whole thing. And it's and now but then again, like I said, the book stops at a certain point, and we had to talk about, you know, where you're at right now, because, you know, the boat you have and things like that are all going to be showing up, I guess, in the future. But this is an old picture, right? This is July 72.
Yeah.
Is what it is. Now, is that just the boat, it's time for the boat to come in because the ocean has done its job on it and you just have to completely redo the outside? Is that what that was?
Essentially. But more specifically, when you have a varnished hulled boat as opposed to a painted out boat, you have a varnished hulled boat. It's about every 8 years, you need to do what's called wooding it. And that's bringing it down to bare wood. And it's a process. I mean,
Yeah.
right there, that's the scraping process. And then there's
Yeah.
the sanding process. And then there's the fine sanding process. Then you bleach it with oxalic acid, let that dry. And then you sand that out. Okay.
Yeah.
Then you put the stain on. And that, again, that's Honduras mahogany. So you use a stain that is appropriate for it. And then you start varnishing. And you have to put 8 coats of varnish initially on it. And if you get it right and the weather cooperates and the humidity level is just right, you can do that in 8 days. Okay. If it's not, it could take you, I mean, you don't want to varnish just to varnish if the humidity's too high or it's too cold and it won't set up, it'll fog up. It's a science to it, but it's beautiful. And those are matching planks. Paul Kettenberg saved the woods and he designed the boat, and it was built, that was at the Kettenberg Yard down in San Diego on Shelter Island. That picture was taken in 72. So I would have been 21 years old when that was taken. But he saved the woods as they were coming in, being shipped in from Honduras. He would wet them, and the planks that matched that gold, red, flashing mahogany, beautiful look, he'd say, put that over in that pile. And when he had enough to build a boat, he did.
How often did you have to do something like this? How many years could you?
Every 8 years. Yeah.
How many?
Every 8.
8 years. That's pretty good. I mean, because the salt water's, harsh. It does a lot of. It eats
It's
up.
pretty good. Now, every year you haul the boat out, put new bottom paint on it, and you put another coat of varnish. You lightly sand it with a very fine 200 or 400, and then put another coat of varnish on, and it just revives it. Yeah.
Right. A lot of terminology with you guys, with the sailing that I am definitely not familiar with. I mean, as I was reading the book, it's sailor talk, but you definitely, I mean, I don't want to veer away from the whole smuggling thing, but this was a major part of, you had to have this to do that, so to speak. Correct?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, later on in the other books, because the only story is their very first time with the boat in this book, and then the second story was, the airplane stuff.
You froze.
I froze. Sorry. The second time around was the airplane stuff.
What's happened?
I don't know. I'm right here.
Oh, you are now. Yeah.
No, I don't
You
know.
froze for a second on mine.
Technology. So as I was saying, the first trip that you did was with the boat, and then the second time around was this big planning to be doing it with an airplane. So you don't hear a whole lot about the boats, but I'm sure that in the future you did a whole lot of boat stuff.
Mostly. There's another. I've done it just about every way except tunneling. Seriously.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
What
other ways are there?
Walking it.
Okay.
Now you can't get much that way, but it depends on what the product is. By the way, I just want to interject this real quick. It's
Sure.
a two-way street. We used to take down, and it would be considered smuggling. We used to take down generators, the Honda generators, down to little fishing villages in Mexico, like for the Manzanillo race and for the various races that go from Southern California. You used to be the Acapulco race, and that was changed to the Manzanillo. You got the Puerto Vallarta race, the Cabo San Lucas race, the Mazatlan race. There are various races down there. Then you have the Mexorc series, which is a regatta that's a week long that boats go down there just to do this week-long event, kind of like Antigua Race Week, similar sort of thing in Mexico. So, and we would take things that they needed down there, and Bob would be well aware of it, Uncle Bob. I mean, we took down, Manny, the guy who had the sail shop, who made the sail bags for me. Well, we used to bring him things like a chamois and the special fittings, the grommets, the tools to be able to to squeeze the grommets and all that stuff, and all the special threads and the needles. Very specialized equipment. A saline needle is different than anything most people have ever seen. Yeah, it's triangular.
Just seems like bartering to me.
Yeah, that's kind of what it was. Yeah.
But I didn't think about that. I mean, so there's just as much, you get in just as much trouble for bringing that stuff over if somebody says something, which really.
Or a VHF handheld or CB radio. Back then, remember they used to have when Nixon was just when Ford took over, they had a thing called Operation Cooperation, and that was the policy between the United States and Mexico. And I was planning on bringing something back, and all of a sudden, in the short amount of time that I'd done a couple of dry runs, I go down, and now it's on the day, and we're actually bringing something back. And it changed to Operation Intercept, and I had to abandon the majority of it because there's no way I could have gotten through the gauntlet. Everything had changed. Now they had federales at the airports that they didn't have before. You know, it was more like rent-a-cops before, and now it was like full tilt. And I went, oh, and it's a good thing I did. I mean, I just went, you know what? I can live with that. I don't need the money for that, and I don't need the experience of being in jail. So I just abandoned the majority of it. Yeah.
How many years? How many years? No, but how many years did you go before? Because again, it's not in the book, but I just, you got to give me throw me a couple of little bones here. But
sure.
How old were you how many years did you do this, and how old were you when you finally got busted and went to prison?
Yeah. So that was 1998. Okay. So I was 47 years old. I had just turned 48. Yeah.
How much time did you have to do?
7.25 years. I was lucky.
You did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I had a 20-year sentence, but
oh damn.
But circumstances, the person I was protecting ended up, his son got caught in England, because now it was international. It wasn't the United States. It's like, name a country, mostly
right.
Europe and Australia. So because something that you would buy for X amount of dollars was worth 5 or 6 times that if it showed up in Australia, for example, or Europe. And the person who ran Europe distribution, he did. His son fingered me on something that when I was sentenced at my 20 years, I was brought down, and there were a room full of agents from the different agencies, all the 3-letter agencies. And they said, well, let's talk. And I said, about what? And they said, well, nobody has 2 tons on their first rodeo. You must have a history. And I said, I can't talk about anything. I have a family. And it was like that for 6.5 years. And then I got a supersede. And they said, the good cop, bad cop thing. Hey, punk, whatever you don't tell us right now today, and we find out about later, and we will supersede indict you. So 6.5 years into my bit, I got a superseding indictment. I read it and I went, oh yeah, that's my ticket out. I played by the rules. They didn't. The son of the guy I had been protecting this whole time got caught with, I don't know if it was 2 grams or 2 ounces over in England. And he gave me up like that. Bam. And so when they superseded and indict me, I was looking at life. And I said, they said, do you want to play? And I said, you bet. So we played, and I went over and I testified 3 times over in England. And I brought that organization down.
Because of the sun ratting on you. You're kind of
exactly
kind of fair game. That's how it works.
Totally fair. Totally fair game. Yeah.
Huh. Wow. And
well
so
documented, by the way, the court records and the all of it. That's the thing about my life. It's been well documented from my acting and being, having newspaper articles growing up, to all of the photos that I've taken, to the actual contemporaneous logs. Since I've been sailing as a preteen, I've been keeping a log. And so people go, how do you have such a great memory? Well, you remember peak experiences, number one. Yeah. You have a peak experience. You know where you were when JFK was shot, or when you knew exactly what was going on when the Twin Towers got hit. I know I was on a flight over the Atlantic, and they were considering whether I was able to land at Heathrow. They were taking me over there to testify. So, we remember peak experiences. And if you have it written down, a log, I go to the log, okay, 1973, 1974, boom, I have it all there. And the memories come back very vividly. So.
Gotcha. Because I too, I asked you the exact same thing. I said, there's a lot of detail in this book. Down to what you were eating, what you drank. Just a lot. I said, how the hell do you, because I've got people lately reminding me of things that we did back in the day. And some things I have we killed a few brain cells, and I remember a lot of things too, but sometimes it's not everything.
That must have been in the hotel room when the Sabina habanero pepper showed up.
Yes, that many times.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but there was other things, the senior frogs, the other, all that stuff takes a lot, because when you've had that much and you're partaking in having a good time and everything through the years, you kind of tend to have to make room for other things to, but you got it all down there. Pretty good. Pretty good. I just tell people, I was told we had a great time. That's, if I can't remember, they said we had a great time. That's all.
I think I've always known that I had a story, even as a youngster, that I had a story that would need to be told. My mother put me on a bus at 5 years old to go from Long Beach to go to Phoenix, Arizona, where my grandparents were going to pick me up. You can't do that today. I don't think they allow kids to do that. And then grandparents put me on a plane to come back. And the folks that were sitting across the aisle from me, I started chatting with them and invited them to go to Disneyland for selfish reasons, And when my parents picked me up, I made sure that they all introduced, and they said, "Oh, your son said that you guys would love to take us to Disneyland or show us around." Not that they were going to pay for it or anything, but just. Yeah. And then my parents looked at me and went, "Typical, typical." And we did, and we're still friends with that family to this day. Oh, wow. They're from Le Havre, France. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Connection. Look, it was a different time back then. You didn't worry about your kid getting snatched or all the crazy shit going on now, which drives me absolutely crazy. But that's a whole nother show, which will be coming up. Yeah. But it was a different time. You could do that. You could walk the streets. You could go places and not be worried about your safety. You're just So another time. Look, it's getting kind of crazy, because I told you time was going to start flying, and it is flying. If there's anything you could tell anybody about this book, and we're going to get to how they can find it and all that, what would you say about this and all the upcoming stuff? Because I think it's a pretty interesting book, but that's my opinion.
Well, I would say it's the result of having put the story down on paper and had a handful of trusted colleagues read it, and the feedback that I got was, Jim, it's a great story. We've heard so many different parts of it in conversation. We know the stories, and you tell it really well. And I need to do an audio book because of that, I think. But it's going all over the place. It's not chronological. I think it's going to have a better dynamic if you explain to people how you got involved in this in the first place. So I reconfigured, I took the chapters and made them chronological from the beginning. So that's why I call it the origin story. Because once people understand how did I have choices that help perpetuate this? Yes. But there's a certain, as you know, Shakespeare said that there's a tide in the affairs of men that when taken at the flood lead to this, and if taken at the ebb lead to that. And sometimes you just get swept away. And there was an element of that in this thing. This whole, I hadn't really intended on going down, and I didn't have a plan. It just sort of came together when I brought that first load back. And then I thought that, well, this is way too easy. And was I wrong? Yeah.
Well, I think it's a great story. Again, the first of many books, and if the rest of the books end up being as detailed and interesting as this, I think you're going to be doing really, really well. But you're going to be really, really busy, continually writing these books. But let's tell everybody how they can find your book. You have a website, correct? Crossingborders.life.
Yep. And then, of course, it's available on Amazon.
I went and looked.
It's self-published. There were options there as well. And there were folks that had inside tracks on publishing it this way, that way. And all of them took more time than I wanted to take. I knew the book was ready. But most importantly, they would have some level of editing control. And it was like, no, I can't. One of my friends is Billy Hayes. He's Midnight Express.
Okay.
Yeah, he's the person in Midnight Express. And of course, I met him after I got out, and we have mutual friends who introduced us. And I mean, he's still upset, and I think rightly so, that the person who did the screenplay of that, which was, oh boy, what's his name again? He got an Oscar for it. He went on to do Kennedy and many other shows, but movies. But he wrote in that there was that Billy had killed somebody, and he didn't. But they wanted to make the movie more exciting, and I didn't want anyone to. The story doesn't need anybody to enhance it. Right. I just told it exactly how it was. So
it's got a life of its own.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, again, I'm going to tell you, kept my interest, which is hard to do. So congratulations on the first of many. And for those of you out there, you want to get a hold of, do you want to learn more about Captain Jim Goodrich? You can go to his website right there, www.crossingborders.life. It's got information on him. You even have a link on how to get the book over on Amazon. Yep. And stay in touch and keep up with the Joneses and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's a pretty darn good deal. But again, the time just flies. But until next time, I guess we're going to have to we'll pick this up and see where we go from there.
Well, this has been great. I appreciate you having me on.
No, I appreciate it too. I appreciate you. And I want to give a special thanks to our mutual friend, Jeff Pearson, for making this happen.
And Annie for chiming in. I'm stoked. Yeah.
I take most of the stuff from Jeff with a grain of salt because, again,
but he's really, and so is Annie. They're very good on a yacht. And I run a 50-foot Santa Cruz out of now it's out of Oxnard, but it was out of port for years, and they've been sailing with me a number of times, and it's always a great experience. Yeah.
He would tell me. Because, again, I spent a lot of time with Jeff, and he would tell me when he's going to go do these things. And I remember, but I had no idea it was you because I didn't know you. He just talked, just some friend. And again, everything happens for a reason. And here we are. And you got a book.
Yeah. And you got to come sailing one of these days.
Well, I would be. Listen, I appreciate that, and I would be more than happy to come hang out. But I would be what you called, and I saw in your book, rail meat.
Right. Yeah. Well, they're accepted.
Yeah, because again, I know nothing about sailing. I'm a motor guy.
Yeah.
But I love the ocean. I mean, I grew up in the Gulf Coast of of Pensacola and things like that. In fact, back in the '80s, we'd get bales that wash up onto shore and things like that. Back in the day, that was like an excitement. If somebody found something, all wrapped up.
Well,
but,
I had little over a ton of Moroccan hash that ended up on beaches in North Carolina.
Sure.
Yeah.
Shit happens. So
Yeah.
you gotta go. Dump it. Wow. Well, anyway. All right, listen.
But anyway, thank you. Yes.
Thank you. And we'll be in touch. But again, last chance, people, you get a big look at Captain Jim right here. And don't forget to go to his website, crossingborders.life, and check him out, send him a message, whatever, and buy his book. Because it's a good book. I mean, I'm not just saying it. It's like I'm telling you, it's a good book. I didn't know what I was getting ready to read. It's just stuff. It's not so much, at least this one. It's not all like drug smuggling. It's a story and a good story and a true story.
And I'd just like to thank everyone who's purchased the book already and left a review. I've got 4.8 stars, which is, people are saying that's impossible. You're a first-time author. How could that be? But when you go to buy the book on Amazon, you'll see it, and the reviews have been amazing. I was really expecting to get slaughtered because of the subject matter, but I guess I tell it in a way that people express some empathy. They understand. Oh, geez, I see how that happened and evolved. So, anyway,
a lot of life involved in that. That's all the way I can put it, and just a lot of fun too. So it's all good. All right, there you go. Last chance. Thank you again. We'll be in touch, and again, this show is going to live on, and it's going to snowball, and I'm sure it's going to do real well. But we'll be talking. So thank you for your time, and again, I look forward to when we get to do this again.
Thank you.
All right, right there, Captain Jim, right there. Wave goodbye to everybody. There you go. There you go. Ta-da! Huh? I'm telling you. Last chance. Go to crossingborders.life. If you only knew how hard it is for me to read books because I get so many of them and time is limited, and sometimes I just don't have that gene. My daughter was even surprised. She patted me on the back, and my daughter's a great reader. She loves to read, but she said, "Dad, just start and do it." And I did, and then I found myself wanting to do it, which is very, very rare. So good book, good story. Go out and get you one. All right, real quick, because we're out of time and we're running late. I want to remind everybody again, because next week, April 10th, this is another good book, because this has my, I'm a little bit passionate about this because this is a tragedy right here. But author Stephanie Perusi wrote a book, Burn Back Better, The Lahaina Fires, okay? A Perfect Storm or a Perfect Crime. I'm kind of leaning towards the latter. We're going to talk to her. We're going to talk about this book because Lahaina, to me, was just a tragic, tragic event that is getting brushed away as fast as they can, and for people to forget. And people have short memories, and we're going to be talking about this. So I want you to check it out. Wednesday, April 10th, right here, Stephanie Perusi's Burn Back Better, The Lahaina Fires. We're revisiting it again because it's important. You're going to want to not miss that show. Also, a reminder, please, please, please subscribe. Please go to YouTube's or go to the petergshow.com and just hit the subscribe button, all right? I need help because these guys are a pain in my side. These guys and TikTok just love holding me down and deleting shows. They just can't let, censorship. We're losing our freedom, folks, but we're not going to let that, stop us. Until they completely ban me, we're going to keep pushing through them. I'm available on many other platforms, as you know, your Facebooks, your LinkedIn's, your X, Instagram, all the shorts, things like that. Just help me out. Follow. All right? And that's basically it. I want to leave you with what I always do. Life is a bitch. It's a tough one out there right now. And I want everybody to, do the best you can. I know a lot of people, especially in Hollywood, the movie business and TV shows and everything, they're hurting really bad. The business is changing. Corporations are buying. It's hard to be a show, any kind of show. People are out of work. Major producers and things like that are delivering DoorDash. It's got nothing to do with the strike either. It's just the business is changing. And it's frustrating. And life is frustrating. And all the problems we're having with the border and things that are going to be affecting you, I'm not stopping to talk about this stuff. So in the meantime, do the best you can. Be kind. Think before you bark, which is something I'm always learning. And just again, you don't have to take a bunch of shit from people, but you don't have to be an ass either. Life's a bitch, but again, we're all just people. I wish we could revert back to a better time, as we spoke to, about with Captain Jim, about when you can let your kids run around without worrying about them. But unfortunately, these are the times we live in. Handle it. I'll see you guys next week, like clockwork, every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, and 9 p.m. on the East Coast, God willing. My name is Peter G. I want to thank you for watching Life of Peter G, The Peter G Show, right here. And we'll see you next time. You're not going to want to miss it, as always. So I love you guys. Peace out.
Peter G Show, Peter G Show, divorce dad, single dad, divorce dad, single dad, Peter G Show.